There are tons of older student piano books, tutors, method books, whatever you want to call them, out there on the market today. And it can be really hard to differentiate between them, decide which one is right for your student and which ones just aren't worth your time at all. So we're going to go through my 4 favorites in this video so that you can decide which one is right for your student who's an older beginner or a teen beginner, an adult student, anything like that. So we're going to look at Piano Safari for the older student, Piano Pronto Prelude, which is a regular Piano Pronto is Fired Up, and Accelerated Piano Adventures in this video. Okay, let's start with what makes each book special. So first of all, we have Piano Safari. Piano Safari for the older student comes in 3 levels. So I have all 3 right here, 1, 2, and 3. At the end of level 3, to give you some context, your student would be at about a grade 2 to 3, maybe even 3 plus, depends on how thoroughly they take in the material. In ABRSM or another exam board system. If you're not using an exam system and that makes no sense to you, they'd be like an intermediate level, so a solid intermediate level by the time they get to the end of those 3 books. So it's a comprehensive set. Now that's not to say that you would have to go through all 3, although I do recommend that all students that start them really should get to the end of book 2 to have a thorough grounding in reading that can take them elsewhere. So what's special about Piano Safari for the older student is similar to what's special about Piano Safari more generally. Now, if you're not familiar with the series, I'll give you a quick rundown. So first of all, they include rote pieces that are pieces that you are intentionally supposed to teach by pattern and by teacher demonstration and listening rather than from notation. This means that your adult student will be able to play stuff that goes all over the keyboard right away. They're going to be able to focus on their technique more thoroughly in those pieces because they're not looking at notation. Alongside this, Piano Safari also covers reading in a very pretty unique way. Other methods use similar techniques but slightly different. So Piano Safari approaches reading intervallically, which is my absolute preferred way of approaching teaching reading. That means students are going to be reading by pattern rather than focusing on note names too much in the beginning. Piano Safari is unique in the fact that they introduce seconds, then thirds with no seconds involved, and then seconds and thirds come back together. So that slower pacing in the beginning, that is really, really important. Adult students, older beginners, they will get some things faster than younger students will, but they won't be able to execute them. So that slower pacing is still important for them in their reading work. So that's Piano Safari. That's my preferred one for a lot of cases. Really thorough reading approach, really great grounding in general. Then we have Piano Pronto. And Piano Pronto for older students will start with Prelude. There is also Keyboard Kickoff if you're looking around and you're a bit confused about their system. Keyboard Kickoff would be for a younger beginner. Prelude is where you can start with an older student. What's special about these books is that they're simple, they're straightforward, there's no extra graphics or stuff all over the page. They're very to the point in a good way. And most of the melodies are ones students will be familiar with. Now, this can be a positive or a negative because there'll be folk tunes and Mary Had a Little Lamb and all that stuff. But it is a benefit for older students when they need that confidence boost of knowing that they're playing the right thing. That can actually be really important for older students who are a bit nervous. Then also from Piano Pronto, we have Fired Up. So this is another method from the same publisher, from Jennifer Eklund, same author, but it's a completely different approach. Fired Up is a little bit more intervallic, still relatively position-based though, like Piano Pronto Prelude. However, it is not familiar tunes at all. None of them are arrangements. These are all composed pieces by Jennifer Eklund herself. They're in a much more contemporary pop-ish style. So that would be the special thing about those books, is the sort of pop style approach. The technique moves quite fast in that one too, so that's a little bit different to the other 2 right here. And then we have one that more people will be familiar with, which is Piano Adventures Accelerated. and this is the faster version of Piano Adventures. I wanted to give a quick mention right here in case you're confused. So there's Accelerated Piano Adventures for the older beginner, that's this one. There is also Adult Piano Adventures. I used to use that a little bit. I don't anymore. I'm not really a fan anymore. The reason being it moves too slowly for me at the beginning, and then it moves too quickly. So the pacing is just off, and I've never found a student who, like, it's okay. It's not a bad method. But it doesn't quite gel with me and my students and my teaching style. So I prefer accelerated, and I would find more use for that one. That is sort of somewhere between the two piano pronto ones in that there are familiar tunes and there are composed pieces, so it's a bit of a mixture. However, the style would be a little bit more traditional than, say, the likes of Fired Up, which would be more contemporary. There are so many pieces that I love in Piano Safari, and there are a lot of pieces in common between the older student book, this one, and the regular series, which is for, average age beginners, 8, 9, 10-year-olds. So a lot of them are in common, and I wanted to choose one that is not, because I know both series quite well, because that can be a bit more informative. So this piece is called A Blue Moon, and it is a reading piece that includes pedals. So that's something you wouldn't see in the regular Piano Safari, the one for younger students. This one includes pedal. It is legato pedaling every 2 bars, although sometimes every 1. And it's a simple piece working on skips, but it's extremely effective. Beautiful little piece, and it absolutely does not sound childish whatsoever. Now, as I said, there is some crossover here, quite a lot of crossover in terms of the pieces in the regular Piano Safari, so you will get some more kiddie sounding pieces, but really you can consider those reading exercises, and you can almost talk to your adult student in that way about them. But there's also beautiful pieces like this one. So in Piano Pronto, in Prelude, which is the book I would start with older students, there's lots of familiar music. Now there are folk songs and simple kid songs and stuff like that, but Jennifer does bring in the left hand right away with simple chord approach, which does richen things out, and adult students really appreciate that. They also really like the classical arrangements that are included in Piano Pronto. So that's one of the ones that I'm going to play. The one that I'm going to play for you that I've chosen is Morning Theme by Edvard Grieg. So that's nothing you won't have heard before, I do understand that. But it's a classical piece that students know, that they love, and it has those simple chords in it, and it's right, I mean, it's not at the start, it's towards the end of Prelude, but that's pretty close to the start of students' journey. They will fly through this book pretty fast, so they'll get to that early on, and they really appreciate how full and rich it sounds, and how they know the piece. The other method that is also from Jennifer Eklund is Fired Up, and this is a completely different approach. The piece I'm going to show you is from roughly the middle of the book, just past the middle. It is called Celtic Dreams, and again, students will be moving pretty fast through this book. It's not a long one, so this is quite early on in their journey. This one has pedaling on each line. Okay, so these come with backing tracks as well. I haven't chosen to do it with the backing track here, but you can absolutely explore those on Jennifer's website, pianopronto.com, and hear it with the track as well, which can be a really great option. So you can hear though there how that's quite a lot more sophisticated sounding, a little bit more interesting, and Jennifer will introduce quite contemporary sounding harmonies, interesting harmonies throughout the Fired Up series. So that's something students can look forward to there. This piece is more to show you the style really of Accelerated Piano Adventures rather than it being my out and out favourite arrangement, but it does give you a sense of what the book is about. This is right from the middle and it's an arrangement of a Chopin waltz. However, a lot of the book is also things like you have on the left-hand page here, Irish Washerwoman, so don't think that it's all classical arrangements. It's very much leaning towards folk and things like that, but they do have the occasional classical arrangement like this one. I chose this one because it's interesting in the technique approach that they take here, because really it's an etude. It's using this piece, this melody that they've taken out of Chopin's work to explore moving with the hands. So really that's just an exercise in a 3-note slur there, but it's nice, it's a nice little arrangement. It's not as full as what you heard from Prelude, Piano Pronto, and that was also easier. So there is that factor there, but it's definitely a nice arrangement and there's some really lovely ones in the whole book. So these are the 4 most common books in my toolkit for my older students. Who would I use each of them for? Okay, well, Piano Safari for the older student. I think it is great for an older, slightly older child student, meaning it is really good for a 10, 11, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, and then depending on the teen and adult after that. But especially if I have, say, a sibling pair starting together, and I've got a younger one, and I think they're suited to Piano Safari regular, and then I have a 10 or 11-year-old, I would put them in this, no question. I think that's a great option for them. Another type of student this is suited for, though, is some adults and some older teens. Especially if, when you talk to them about their goals, they're tending towards a classical bent, right? So if you get a teen in who says, I want to sit all the exams, I want to get started reading right away, and they're really quite dedicated, I would say that's a great option for them. Or an adult who you feel really wants a step-by-step, very guided by you process through repertoire. I think that's a great grounding for them in reading that way. Now, let's go to Piano Pronto Prelude. Who is that for? Well, that's almost the opposite person, because for me, Prelude is about, okay, I can sense that this student is not going to be super gone on reading. They're not going to put in the effort for that because they're not motivated by it. And they very much need pieces they can recognize to keep us moving forward on reading in some way, even if it is a bit position based, to keep us moving forward through the repertoire, through pieces that they recognize, while we're also working on something like playing by ear. The other reason, though, that I use Prelude a lot, and it's not specifically an older beginner method, by the way, that's just how I use it, but the other way I use it a lot is with transfer students who really can't read, but think that they can, or are further along in some other areas. Piano Pronto is great for them because it's recognizable tunes, they can fly through them really fast, get straight, hopefully to the end of movement 1, which is the next book, the green one, and then move on to other stuff wherever we want to take it. Then we have Fired Up. So Fired Up is a whole other student again, there's so many different types, right? Fired Up, for me, is perfect for a teen or a tween who comes to you saying they want to learn to play pop music and you want to balance that with some reading. They're going to really appreciate that. I say a teen or a tween, an adult might come to you with that too. I get more teens saying that to me, teen beginners, but an adult absolutely who comes to you saying, I want to play pop songs, I want to play this, I want to play that. This would be a great option for them for that contemporary sound while still working on reading in a way that they love. It also is great in terms of flying through it. So I've had students who go through this so fast. This one, the next level, and that's it. There's only 2 levels of Fired Up. From there, they're exploring their own path and going from there. They would be at the end of those 2 books like a late beginner, early intermediate, and they can really branch out from there. Once you get to that stage, you can take a lot of different avenues with them. The last one here, Accelerated Piano Adventures. It isn't my top favorite. These are my top 3. Why would I use Accelerated Piano Adventures? If a student, in particular a sibling, that's really the use case for this. So say I have a younger student and then an older student, a sibling pair, something like that, or even a parent and a child, and I really want them in very different method books. Like I said, Piano Safari does have a lot of crossover with their younger beginner book. So, or if I have 3 siblings and I need another option, Accelerated Piano Adventures still works very well. Like I said, I prefer it to the adult piano adventures now, but in general, for adult students, I would generally opt for one of these 3. This would be more for avoiding clashing with something that I still do like. It's still a quality method that I like going through with students with some really nice arrangements in there. So you can find Piano Safari at pianosafari.com. You can find Piano Pronto at pianopronto.com, both of those books. And then Piano Adventures, you can find it anywhere, Amazon, Book Depository, those sorts of places, or on their website as well. So those are my favorite older beginner method books, but I'm sure I haven't explored them all, and I'm sure there are teachers out there who just love another one. Let me know if I haven't included your favorite in the comments below. Let me know if I've introduced you to a new book and how you go trying it out. And make sure to subscribe to the channel while you're here so that you get the next one of these videos as soon as it comes out.